I vow to become an ordinary human being. I vow to cease from evil, to do good, and to do good for others. And I vow to do no harm. Those three vows I recite to myself silently in the course of my zazen. And I have been doing this for a number of years. Some of you, I've talked about this before. But those three vows, for me, pretty much encompasses what Zen practice is all about. And I like to think of them as an encapsulation of the 16 Bodhisattva vows. The first vow, I vow to become an ordinary human being, is really an expression of the three treasures. Why don't you go down and get some? The second vow, I vow to cease from evil, to do good, and to do good for others, are the three treasures. I mean, the three pure precepts. And the vow to do no harm is really a very abbreviated version of the 10 great precepts. Because that's what the 10 great precepts are about, doing no harm. And I thought I would take each one of these vows and describe to you what they mean to me. I take very seriously the first vow to become an ordinary human being. I think it is very important that I choose to be a human being. Of course, all of us are human beings already. But choosing to be a human being is an expression of my free will and the responsibility I hold for that free will. Because when I vow to become a human being, an ordinary human being, I am vowing to accept all the good things about myself and all the bad things about myself equally. One of the first lessons I learned in this practice is that when a Zen teacher talks about something ordinary, it actually is quite extraordinary. We talk about ordinary mind, for example, all the time. But it's actually quite extraordinary. Choosing to be a human being, an ordinary human being, I think is very important. It is an expression of what is sometimes termed a free-functioning, fully integrated person. And my desire to attain that. I've often said that Zen practice to me has always seemed to be about accepting yourself for just who you are. It is an extremely difficult thing for many people to do. And the resistance that they have to accepting themselves just as they are stems primarily from their upbringing and from their conditioning as children, and then later as young adults, and then later still as employees of some corporation or whatever. Um, you know, I've said before, I don't care if you go downtown and rob a bank. That's all right with me, as long as you are aware of what you're doing. Awareness is everything. Now, the second vow, I vow to cease from evil, to do good, and to do good for others. The three pure precepts is basically the Bodhisattva path. That is the path of a Bodhisattva. And I want to try and explain to you what each one of those precepts means to me. First, I'm going to tell you what Dogen had to say about them. Ceasing from evil. It is the dwelling place of all Buddhas and all the Dharmas, and it is the source of all the Buddhas and all the Dharmas. What is the dwelling place of all the Buddhas and all the Dharmas? There's only one place to look. It's the present moment.
At least Kenji and I agreed in our wrongness.
I was half step behind.
Yes, Dan. We know that ego is of paramount importance, but in this case, not so. What is of primary importance is the present moment. Without self-interest. To do good. Dogen said about doing good. It is anuttara samyak sambodhi, which is practiced by all Buddhas and which allows all beings to practice. Anuttara samyak sambodhi is complete, universal enlightenment. And the second precept has to do with the practice of anuttara samyak sambodhi. And what is the practice in the present moment? It is to do whatever needs to be done. That's all. It is just simply doing what's right in front of you. To do good for others. Dogen said that doing good for others is transcending common and going beyond sainthood. Liberate oneself and liberate others. Liberate oneself and liberate others. How do you liberate oneself and liberate others? Why do we have to liberate others before we can liberate ourselves? Because if you look out of your eyeballs and you see other people, you are deluded. It's all the same. Your liberation is identical with what you perceive to be everybody else's liberation. And basically what you are doing when you liberate oneself and liberate others is realizing that we're all Buddhas. And as long as I see others, there is work to be done. To do no harm. I don't think there's anything particularly difficult about doing no harm. It would be wonderful if we lived in a world in which harm was not committed. But I use that expression as a summary of the 10 grave precepts, because the 10 grave precepts are basically about harming others. Unless, of course, you're liberated and there are no others. So these are the vows that I take in the morning that reaffirm my commitment to this practice and my commitment to realizing my ongoing enlightenment. It is also an affirmation of my commitment of service to other people, particularly to the people who I am most intimate with, namely my wife, my family, to you, to all the people that I see on a daily basis. And unfortunately, it requires a daily recommitment. I have to make this commitment as often as I can. And I have even gotten into the habit of making these 3 vows as I go through my workday. Or, in the case of my life recently, not so much work. So I recommend them to you. And if you're interested in I can sit down and write you a copy of this if you're interested in doing this for yourself. I heartily recommend it. Thanks.